Today we'll talk about a very interesting and relatively recent approach to developing software and see how that approach, or I would say set of approaches, would relate to software process improvement. I'm sure you have guessed the topic. It is Agile software processes. Agile software development or Agile software engineering combines a philosophy and a set of development guidelines. The philosophy encourages customer satisfaction and early incremental delivery of software, which consists of small increments and is developed by small and highly motivated project teams. It uses informal methods, minimal software engineering work products, and overall development simplicity. This is what Agile software engineering is in a nutshell. However, there are different formal approaches within the Agile software engineering community, and we'll talk about them a little later. The development strategy or development guidelines stress delivery over analysis and design. However, it does not mean that analysis or design activities are discouraged. They are not. The emphasis, however, is on actually developing code early on in the life cycle and giving that to the customer. And there is an active communication between the developers and customer, and this is not only active, but it is continuous throughout the life of the project. So it is expected that the customer will participate in the development process. It is not necessary that the customer actually sits down and writes software code, but is available to answer specific queries on a very short notice. As I said, that there are a number of development process models which relate to the Agile philosophy. To name a few of them, let's talk about the adaptive software development. Then there is extreme programming. Third is feature-driven development. Then there is Scrum, Agile modeling, and Crystal family of methods. So these are just to name a few of them. This approach, I would say, or this branch of software engineering, that is the Agile software engineering, is becoming fairly popular because it does not involve a lot of documentation, and the community, I would say the Agile community, accepts that changes will happen even when the software is about to be delivered. So that is a sea change of attitude from our previous software development approaches, where we tend to stop requirements changes so that we can focus more on design and development and so forth within one increment at least. So there are two key features of these development approaches which are very different from the traditional software engineering methodologies. Number one, they accept that the change will occur. Changes in requirements and changes in technology. They therefore adopt to a more adaptive or iterative approach to planning. The philosophy is that you just don't plan in the beginning. You plan continuously, and you continuously update your plans as the changes occur. Secondly, in suggesting how projects should be organized, they make a point of trying to work with human nature rather than ignoring it. And this is something will elaborate as we continue our discussion on Agile methodology. Now, one consequence of both of these main features is they tend to create less documentation, and that is one thing that I was referring to earlier, that less documentation is produced if Agile methodologies are used as compared to the conventional methods. It is not that the Agile community does not like documentation, but just these documents don't need to be created for their own sake. That is, only such documentation is created which is an absolute necessity for the execution of the project and absolute necessity for the delivery of software product. The proponents of the Agile software methodologies have published what is called an Agile Manifesto for software development, and we'll talk about that now. अब आपके सामने Agile Manifesto आपके स्क्रीन पे नज़र आ रहा है। इसमें एक क्लेम किया गया है जो कि Agile सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपमेंट कम्युनिटी के लीडर्स की तरफ से है, और मैं पढ़ देता हूँ कि इट सेज कि वी आर अनकवरिंग बेटर ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work we have come to value, यानी कि वो ये कह रहे हैं कि जिस तरह हम सॉफ्टवेयर बनाते हैं और हम दूसरों की मदद करते हैं, हमने ये डिटरमिन किया है कि individuals and interactions are more important over processes and tools. And working software is more valuable over comprehensive documentation. Customer collaboration is preferred over contract negotiations, and responding to change is a better way than following a plan which does not change. That is, there is value on both the items on the right as well as items on the left. However, the Agile community values the items on the left more than the values or items on the right. So according to the Agile Manifesto, the items on the left are more important, have more privilege, or are focused more on during the projects as compared to items on the right. It is not that the items on the right are not valued. They are valued, but they have less value as compared to items on the left. Now, the manifesto is then followed by what are known as Agile Principles. There are 12 of them, and now we'll talk about these 12 Agile Principles. Number one, our highest responsibility or priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. This principle ensures that the customer gets a working copy of the software as soon as possible. So obviously the development schedules are laid out in such a way that that more time is spent early on in actual writing the code as compared to planning or as compared to requirements analysis and design. Second is welcome changing requirements even late in the development cycle. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. This principle again is based on the concept of change is going to happen, and it is going to happen even later in the development cycle, and so when that happens, the changes will be incorporated. They will not be pushed into the next delivery cycle. So changes, if specially requested by the customer, will be incorporated as soon as possible into the software product, and that product will be made available to the customer. Now, what the advantage of this principle is that it enables the customer to market their product as quickly as possible. Third Agile principle is deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter time scale. We already said that we want to deliver software to the customer as soon as possible. तो ना सिर्फ ये कि हम सॉफ्टवेयर की वर्किंग कॉपी कस्टमर को जल्दी मुहैया करेंगे, बल्कि जो हमारी इटरेशंस हैं उसकी ड्यूरेशन भी थोड़ी होगी, और हमारी कोशिश ये होगी कि जल्द से जल्द हम सॉफ्टवेयर के अपग्रेड्स भी कस्टमर को दें. उससे कस्टमर को एक बहुत बिजनेस एडवांटेज है जो अर्ली टाइम टू मार्केट की सूरत में मिल सकता है. Then the next principle is that the business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. जैसा मैंने पहले भी बताया था कि कस्टमर और डेवलपर की बहुत ज़्यादा इंटरेक्शन एजाइल मैनिफेस्टो में या एजाइल सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग के अंदर है, और बाज़ मेथडोलॉजीज़ तो ये रिक्वायर करती हैं कि यू हैव अ कस्टमर on site, on the developers, working with the developers team. The next principle is build projects around motivated individuals. Give them the environment and support they need and trust them to get the job done. Or this also applies that the teams are loosely structured. आप उनको काम दें and you expect them कि by the end of the day they will deliver the required functionality. The next principle, the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. And that is why the development team has access to each other and to the customer on a very frequent and daily basis. तो ना सिर्फ ये कि बहुत ज़्यादा फॉर्मेलिटीज़ नहीं हैं, बल्कि कस्टमर के साथ भी आपकी इन्वॉल्वमेंट जो है वो डेली बेसिस के ऊपर है. कस्टमर is giving feedback and providing inputs on the different requirements, as well as answering questions that may arise during agile development. Next principle is working software is the primary measure of progress. और ये एक ऐसी चीज़ है, this applies to all kinds of software development approaches, लेकिन यहाँ पर Agile में इसको बहुत ज़्यादा हाईलाइट किया जाता है कि requirements documents और डिज़ाइन जितने मर्जी अच्छे हों, अगर वर्किंग सॉफ्टवेयर उसके साथ नहीं है तो उन प्रोडक्ट्स की को ख़ास अहमियत नहीं रह जाती, क्योंकि एक्चुअली it is the working software which does the magic and helps the customer to solve different problems that require a software solution. The next principle is agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, the developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. That is, you have to be always in a very proactive and very sustainable development mode, and that requires that you have challenging work all the time, and you have continuous technical excellence, and you're willing to contribute on a daily basis for a long time. The next principle is very similar to this, and that is continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. However, it is also very important to not get bogged down into too much detail and worry about too much designing, and that has to be avoided. But continuous attention to technical excellence is very important part of agile software development. The next principle is simplicity. that is the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. You don't have to make things complex unnecessarily. Simplicity is essential. Simplicity, however, is difficult to achieve because all our education teaches us in software engineering curriculums, in computer science curriculums, that we need to think ahead and think in future and think about possible changes and incorporate them into the software designs. However, Agile philosophy does not subscribe to this thinking and would like to keep software designs fairly simple. The next principle is the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. And that also is important, and it shows the loose nature of team structure that is incorporated into the design, into the Agile methodology. And the last principle is at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. And that is the main focus of improvement, that all the team members contribute in improving how they do things that they do and how they can do better in future projects, and what are their shortcomings and how can they become more effective. So this principle helps us in improving the processes of Agile software methodologies. Now, I've mentioned a few names that use or subscribe to the Agile Manifesto. There may be others, and there may be new approaches in future. Not all of them work the same way. Not all methodologies are the same. Extreme programming, for example, concentrates on coding and testing activities, while the adaptive software development and crystal families, they cover a wider scope. So there are differences within the Agile methodologies, and one has to select depending on the depending on the project and depending on the training of personnel and other factors to choose one methodology over the other. The general philosophy is that Agile methods concentrate on the overall conceptual things. For example, they concentrate on I was talking about XP concentrating on coding and testing, and AST and Crystal concentrating on something else, or have a wider scope, but they do concentrate on the larger issues. For example, coding as an activity, or designing as an activity, or testing as an activity. They do not provide guidelines on detailed procedures, let's say for configuration management or scheduling and things like that. So there is a sort of a missing link in these areas, and those who are working on Agile methods need to find or fill in the gaps using all other sources, or they have to rely on best practices being followed in other software engineering methodologies. There is another concept that the Agile community or Agile methodologies would like to convey, and that is that waterfall model is not the only software development approach that can be used. There are other approaches, and the software development should be a collaborative exercise between or among the customers and the developers. This does not mean that the customer is actually engaged in developing software, but is considered part of the software development team and is readily available to provide feedback and answer questions on a daily basis. And so the message that is given is that you have to work with your customer and users, not against them. Third is accept that real world does change, and you need to learn to manage the change. It's very important to note that your requirements arise from the real world. They do not come from some vacuum. So there is some change in the real world which focuses or which enables the customer to capture a market or venture into a new business area. And so as a result, the change is required in the software product as well. And finally, it's a very important message, and that relates well with simplicity, and that is, don't try to be more rigorous than the situation demands. You cannot and you will not be able to include every possible scenario in the design to cater for future changes. This is the message, and a very important one, I would say, that comes from the Agile methodology. Now we have to relate this with software process improvement, because as many companies continue to use Agile methodologies, and they also need to improve the way they have been doing their software development. It is not possible to understand that any company or any organization which starts to use Agile methodology is in no need of improvement. Software process improvements and process improvements in other domains have always been a goal. However, with the introduction of CMM software, this became a much more formal way in the software industry. Since we are talking about Agile methods, the Agile methods in their principles emphasize on process improvement. And that is the last principle that, when I talked about it, referred to you, alluded that process improvement concepts are built into that principle. And I will read that principle again. It says, at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. And that is the principle which drives process improvement in Agile methodologies. So, on the one hand, it is true that Agile movement is considered by some as antithesis of the capability maturity, and it is considered a recipe for anarchy as far as formal software development and formal process improvement is concerned. However, the manifesto and the Agile principles do allow us, or allow the Agile software engineering to improve, and that is important to note. it is not possible for anyone who's using or developing software in using agile methodology to exactly follow the CMM or CMMI approach to software process improvement and increase the maturity level. That is why the manifesto, the Agile Manifesto, is certainly intended as a counterblast to higher maturity levels of CMM or CMMI. But on the other hand, as a professional, you have to be concerned with efficient system development. You have to respond to customer needs. You have to avoid bureaucracy, and those concerns are addressed in the Agile Manifesto. The point that we are discussing today is that there are a number of software development methodologies, and it is not possible for the entire industry to just focus on one process development approach and only subscribe to a specific CMMI type process improvement models. As the innovation continues, there will be more process models, and each one of them will have its own way of improving, and maybe more than one. So when we are talking about software process improvement, it has to be understood that that concept is a variable concept because it changes with the way you do software development. It is also important to note that it is possible to reach CMMI levels 4 and 5 for process areas. It is conceptually feasible, but in some cases it may not be economically feasible, except for situations where the product domain has become very stable for an extended period of time, and also where it is required by the customers to operate at that level. The question as a software engineer, as a software professional, you have to ask, how many of us are working in such product domains? With the advancement in internet and communication technologies, the answer to that question is that not many of us are working in those environments and in those domains. So if we are using newer technologies, if we are using newer approaches for software development, if you are breaking grounds in new application domains, then obviously we cannot work with older ways of software process improvement. I'm not suggesting here that CMMI or other software development and process improvement approaches are dead. What I'm saying is that those approaches have to be in conformance with the way software is developed by an organization. If you look at ISO 9001, it requires that an organization shall continually improve the effectiveness of the quality management system through the use of quality policy, quality objectives, audit results, analysis of data, corrective and preventive actions, and management review. If you look at this and then you look at the Agile Manifesto and you look at the Agile Principles, there seem to be no conflict, because in Agile methods they also have to strive to continuously improve the way they do their software development activities. So it would appear that the agile methods are entirely consistent with the concept of process improvement and as interpreted by the ISO 9000 models. It is also important to note, however, that the way agile process improvement is done, or agile process improvement is considered, it is definitely in conflict with the way CMMI does process improvement. So that point has to be understood, and it depends on the organizations and companies to decide the way forward, the way in which they would like the process improvement to be initiated in their own organizations. And a lot of it has to do with how they actually develop software. Do they subscribe to the agile philosophy? Do they have process models which are considered to be agile, and are they faithfully following it or not, or what kind of application domains they are more focused on? And so there is no one answer when you're asked which methodology of process improvement should I select for my company. There is an interesting concept that we can apply agility to process improvement, and we'll talk about it now. Agility is not only applicable to the way we develop software, it can also be applied to our process improvement activity. Some of the agile principles can be changed to the following. For example, our highest priority is to satisfy the user through early and continuous delivery of valuable productivity aids. So that you would see that there's a little bit of change in the verbiage because now we are applying it to the process improvement activities. Number two is welcome changing requirements. Another principle would be software developers and process improvers must work together closely throughout the project and recognize the importance of motivated individuals, give them the environment and support that they need, and trust them to get the job done without having to charter the way that they follow. So this is the difference that the process improvement in agile methods or agility as it is applied to software process improvement activities, it is left more to the creativity and innovation of highly skilled professionals. Simplicity is the art of maximizing the amount of work not done is essential, and also at regular intervals the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. So these are some of the principles that we can develop as to the process improvement activities. So we can say that process improvement should be carried out in an agile manner to an iterative life cycle, taking full account of the way in which people actually work, and that's very important. The focus here is on people and taking care to work closely with the people who are actually doing the programming and other things. One of the principles which agile process improvement may need to challenge is the unyielding or inexorable link between measurement and process improvement. And this is a fundamental shift from all the process improvement methodologies that are out there. Most of them are based on quantitative analyses and quantitative and making decisions on metrics and making decisions on quantitative data, that is not considered to be of the most important relationship between agile process improvement. We should see quantitative data as a valuable bonus for process improvement rather than an absolute prerequisite, as has been the case and as is the case with most process improvement programs. It is important to note there is value in this, that new software development technology is still appearing on a regular basis. Some of it is self-evidently good, while some of it is doomed to the annals of interesting, or you can say less interesting, dead-end streets. And nobody except the publishers are going to follow those methodologies and technologies. So the innovation in software engineering methodologies is a continuous activity, and we should adopt the ones that are more suitable to the environment, to the application domain, to the corporate culture, and in some cases to the customer's liking. So in order for us to adopt a process improvement approach, if people believe something needs doing, then we need to do it, and there can be a management decision to just follow that approach. If something looks like a good approach, then you can try that. If you can cost effectively collect data to support your process improvement activities, then so much the better. However, you don't have to hold your breath and you don't have to worry about it too much. If your new approach requires spending a lot of money, then of course you will need to justify that. But make sure that lots of money really means lots of money. For example, $1,000 on a $50 million project is not a lot of money. So here is an advice: be informally quantitative and logical about deciding whether to be formally quantitative. So it is that terminology that's being used. Finally, you need one area, you need to be quantitative in one area, and that is estimation, which by definition is quantitative, and you can't get away from the fact that people like to know in advance how much you are asking them to spend. Don't use the informal quantitativeness to avoid methodical approaches to estimation. So here is one area which is common between the traditional software process improvement approaches and agile software process improvement approaches, that estimation has to be done in a quantitative fashion. The message of agile methods are, while we value and use processes and tools, we should not allow them to deter us from talking to our customers and users, because the manifesto says that customers are we would like to collaborate with the customers rather than negotiate with the customers. We should never forget that working and usually maintainable software is the key objective. We should always ask whether every piece of our documentation serves a useful purpose. In other words, we don't need to create unnecessary documentation. While we need to agree with our customers what we are delivering and document that agreement, many projects in the past should benefited from collaboration and less haggling. And that is what I was saying, that the focus, one of the focus on the in the agile methods is to work with the customer and not against the customer. no one benefits from following a plan that no longer meets the real requirements. Sure, we should have a plan, but we also should know when replan and update our existing plans. Engineering professionalism should not prevent us from having good relationships with our users and customers and responding to their needs. Some of us will see that this is a thin end of the wedge, working inexorably to separate them from the holy grail of CMMI level 5. But others will realize that debate is an essential component of continual improvement. And that is one thing that I wanted to highlight today, is that CMMI is a good approach. There are other methods which are very good way of improving software processes. However, there is always a scenario in which you can create counter arguments of not using one process model or one process improvement approach or the other. The most important thing is that an organization and individuals need to make informed decisions based on their application domains, based on how they develop software, which process models they use for developing software, what their overall and futuristic plans are, what their strategic plans are, what their short-term or tactical plans are, how much money they can spend or they would like to spend on process improvement activities, because these are not tactical funding, these are strategic assets that you're building, and it may take several years to follow one software process improvement approach to get to where you want to go, and you need to link up your process improvement efforts with your strategic business goals, and you need to be flexible in deciding these things. So SPI projects should work around those factors, and you should also have a willing, creating and capable teams and professionals to work on these very noble goals. Now I'm going to show you a picture that conceptualizes the features considered necessary to support an agile approach to software process improvement. This is a model for an agile software process improvement method. It consists primarily of a triangle, which is software process improvement coordination. Improving process as an actor is on the one side of the triangle, then improving individual competence and improving team competence. These are the three corners of the triangle, and the coordination in the center is to provide infrastructure, is to synchronize software process improvement actions, analyze benefits of process innovations. And individual competence, as we have been focusing on, is providing time to reflect on practice, encouraging boundary scanning and just-in-time training, which these are the skills that improve the competence of individuals involved in software process improvement methods that relates to agile software engineering. And as far as team competence is concerned, sharing knowledge and lessons from practice and facilitating informal discussion, which is also very important. One of the key things in any software process improvement effort is to collaborate with each other, that is to work in a very synchronized team environment. So improvement in process management is a continuous effort to design an efficient process by understanding the relationship between process configurations, and process outcomes, and embedding the knowledge in the process through routines and formal process definitions. So let's now talk about factors which ensure successful software process improvement program. Number one, changes must be aligned with business strategy, and priorities should be based on the business context. This is very important. Without relating to the business strategy, no process improvement effort will ever succeed. Number two, there needs to be a commitment to improve, and investment is required, and the emphasis and the focus and the impetus should come from the top management. Software process improvement requires consensus of all stakeholders, and they need to have ownership of the change. Next is the current processes must be understood. Change must be continuous. Improvement infrastructure is required to identify and manage the implementation of changes, and that is where a lot of failures can happen, that without providing that infrastructure, without providing the resources necessary to manage the implementation, the best of the plans can just go in a waste. And the results of the software process improvement efforts should be monitored on a regular basis. The most important thing in initiating or implementing process improvement initiatives is by teaching the professionals the necessary traits that are required for process improvement. So learning on the part of software process implementers, I would say, or software professionals is the key in any software process improvement initiative. And to support learning and innovation, we can utilize what is known as the software engineering process group. The purpose of software engineering process group would be a little different here than it is in CMM software or CMMI. The idea of, or the working of SCPG in agile software engineering environments is that it is a facilitating group which provides training, encouragement, which provides resources, and progress management of the SCPG can enable the introduction of significant changes to the defined processes. So the role that SCPG plays in agile software process improvement efforts is not that of defining processes, but facilitating processes. And SCPG can also conduct research in those areas which are not clear, and can help the actual software personnel who are going to implement the process improvement initiative. Now, it is very important to note that no matter how good a process is, you need to have good people to implement those processes. And that's one of the key messages that goes out from Agile software process improvement. Thank you very much.